Good evening. I, Nisha Nair, Assistant Professor, Jindal Global Law School, OP Jindal Global University, extend a warm welcome to all of you to the 11th anniversary and celebration of the University Day. I would request Professor C. Rajkumar, the founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University, to deliver the welcome address.
Very good evening to all of you. It is an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the celebration of the 11th anniversary of OP Jindal Global University, but also to mark the University Day celebrations of the university. Of course, it's a very special moment as we mark this occasion, not in person as we do every year, but it's also a moment when we recognize the extraordinary journey of the university, but also our own efforts to be part of this global challenge that all of us are facing with resilience and an effort to address this challenge as well. This day is very special also because of the fact that we welcomed the first batch of our students literally on 30th September 2009. This university was founded in a very modest manner with only over 100 students and 10 faculty members, and we began the academic session on exactly this day. Little did we know that that journey that began 11 years ago would bring us together, and all this while, as we have expanded our schools, our programs, our faculty, our spaces, of course, our students. This is also a very special moment for me to personally recognize the contribution of our founding chancellor and benefactor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, who made a historic commitment towards building a world-class university in India. He not only committed to providing substantial financial resources, but also made commitments towards ensuring academic freedom, autonomy, independence, and most importantly, also to ensure that this entire university will be run in a not-for-profit manner. It is his philanthropic contribution and the far-sighted vision that ultimately culminated in the establishment and evolution of OP Jindal Global University. I would like to take this moment to personally thank him and appreciate his contribution for the creation and evolution of this university. I also want to take a moment to thank the contribution of Mr. H.R. Bharadwaj, who actually introduced me to Mr. Jindal. And this is a moment for us to recognize his contribution. Although he is not with us today, he left us just this year. And I want to take a moment to appreciate his own contribution when he was the Union Minister for Law and Justice way back in the year 2006. There are numerous people who have made different types of contributions in the evolution of this university, and most of them are not with us right now physically, but I know that wherever they are, they will be remembering this day, and we will be remembering them. They are located in different countries in the world, and some of them even in India, but are not able to join us on this occasion. I would like to thank Professor Peter Schuck of Yale University, Professor Stephen P. Marks of Harvard University, Professor Jayant Krishnan of Indiana University, Bloomington, Professor James Chukosky, Mr. Raman Shah, Professor D.K. Srivastava, and our first registrar, Mr. Aman Shah, but later Professor Y.S.R. Murthy and Professor Padmanabha Ramanujan. I also want to take this moment to thank the government of Haryana, the University Grants Commission, the Bar Council of India, the National Accreditation and Assessment Council, the Council of Architecture, and most recently, the Empowered Experts Committee of the Institute of Eminence, all of whose efforts has actually contributed to the evolution of this university. I would like to take a moment to thank the contribution of our faculty members, students, staff, and parents and other stakeholders who bestowed their faith and trust in this institution as we began the journey in 2009 in a modest manner. The journey began with only one school, the Jindal Global Law School, in 2009, and we have come a long distance from that day. And yesterday, we inaugurated the 10th school of the university, the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. And as we speak, the overall strength of the university has increased to over 6,500 students, over 730 full-time faculty members, and as a part of an effort to create a multidisciplinary, research-oriented university campus. This day is also very special, and that is why we have the privilege of having two distinguished individuals being part of this occasion. We have with us Dr. Joanna Newman, the Secretary General and the President of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, and of course, Professor Dr. Virander Chauhan, the Chairman of the National Accreditation and Assessment Council. I am grateful to both of them for their presence and their acceptance to be part of this very special occasion as we celebrate the 11th anniversary of OP Jindal Global University. I also want to particularly take this moment to thank my colleague and friend, Professor Dr. Sanjeev Pisani, who has been with us from the very early part of this journey, and also my other colleagues, Professor Sridhar Patnaik, the other senior additional registrars, the joint registrars, as well as the Chief Operating Officer, the Chief Administrative Officer, the Chief Financial Officer, and other distinguished staff of the university, faculty members, and students, each one of them who have made significant contribution to our journey. As we look at the future, we are conscious of the extraordinary impact that university education can have on humankind and the role and responsibility that universities have with regard to seeking social, educational, economic transformation of the country and the world. With those words, I would like to once again thank all of you for your presence and participation in the 11th anniversary of OP Jindal Global University. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kumar, for delivering the welcome address. May I now request Professor Sanjeev P. Sahni, Principal Director, Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences and advisor to the Vice Chancellor, OP Jindal Global University, to make the introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, and good evening to dear JGU students, staff and faculty, and very respected Professor Chauhan. Thank you very much for joining us today. I remember exactly 11 years back, I was talking to Professor Rajkumar few minutes before, that how we started. We were not in fact ready. If I give you a little history, we got the legislation done in February 2009, and there was hardly any time. So, then construction to be started, and then whether we will be able to start the first session or the Jindal Global Law School in 2009 was a big question. But he was determined. Professor C. Rajkumar was determined, we have to start. And, with his efforts, dynamism, we started in 2009. And, but I could not imagine that just in 11 years, we are the youngest university to be ranked in QS ranking. I mean, no other university in the world can ever imagine that in 11 years, we will be in 650th place in the QS ranking. Although now we have 10 schools, now we are maintaining 1:9 faculty-student ratio, but Dr. C. Rajkumar is pushing us that if we can be 1:8, and we are trying our level best. Corona time, when we shut the doors in March, but this university is more active than, what pre-Corona time. Probably we have conducted over 850 webinars in just 6 months' time. And we have also probably the first one to start the blended courses, the blended learning, in various disciplines. We are also doing a lot of infrastructure work, infrastructure things that we have already fitted in the 70 classrooms with the video cameras, with movement trackers and the voice trackers, highly technological things for the benefit of the students, that in case students are not able to join whenever we are going to open, so that students can be benefited with this kind of a blended learning. We have also made our health center and the protocols that in case we have to start university physically, we should be totally ready. Recently, we have at a JGU Medical Advisory Board, where we have the top 20 doctors and who are very active. Out of that, there are 3 or 4 are Padam Shiris, and they are known people who are ready to help and are advising us for the health center to be operational in a way to ready to face any kind of challenges due to COVID-19, where 20 million people have lost jobs or pay cuts, but JGU is still hiring people. You know, in probably in the last 6 months, we have hired over 150 faculty members and staff, and we are still in the process of hiring. New recruitment is going on, and one of the in the last 3 months, what we have started is the teaching and research for intellectual pursuits, which is like a trip. So we are offering this fellowships to the young students from all over the world to come and work with us as a research assistant and a teaching assistant. And probably over 300 people applied all over the world, and we have selected almost 80 people into the TRIP fellowship. And we are increasing the talent pool of academia through this way. Many things are happening for students and for faculty. And on the top, JGU is always into the pride moment of getting more and more rewards and awards. And recently, very soon we may get the information about the Institute of Eminence, and Professor Rajkumar is working for that very hard. We are on campus. Let me tell you, students, if you are listening to all of us, we are on campus and we are working for you day and night to make more comfortable, and the environment at the university is now much more delightful. And once you are going to come and join, I'm sure you will be very happy. So once again, I want to congratulate especially Professor C. Rajkumar for his vision, for his dynamic leadership, and his large-hearted. So he's accessible to all of us anytime, and I salute your leadership. And I'm sure in every year, in every 30th of September, we have more feathers in our cap, and it is a blessing for us working together in JGU. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sahni, for the introductory remarks. We shall now witness the screening of a film encapsulating the natural beauty and serenity that is the glorious campus of OP Jindal Global University. May I request the IT team to screen the film.
At dawn, as the ochre rays of the sun dye the emerald landscape of the campus of OP Jindal Global University in gold, and the campus basks in the glory of lights and sounds, another morning appears to be suspended in time. A celestial experience plays out as every microcosm of life on campus comes alive. As the bird song spreads joy in nature, the squirrels get on with their liveliness and gambol through tree trunks and branches. The leaves of myriad trees display a painter's palette of green shades, rustling in tune with the soft breeze as the peacocks spread their plumage. Welcome to OP Jindal Global University. In perfect harmony, unseen avian and other visitors go about their circadian duties. In these idyllic surroundings, 6,500 students begin their day in quest of knowledge and wisdom. The corridors begin to beat to the tempo of rushed feet and the sounds of classrooms. Paper rustles, pen scribbles, keyboard bound, as the hours go by. A place where one dreams big, aiming to make history. A place that inspires, makes one inspire others, and also get inspired by others. This is the exceptional and inimitable educational experience at India's Global University. Spread over the 80-acre campus, the university has 10 interdisciplinary schools, where 6,500 students and 730 full-time faculty members engage in the pursuit of excellence. Each day marks the beginning of a new idea, a new vision, and a new story. Each day ends with a sense of fulfillment in everyone. Watching over India's best and brightest students is the tallest flagpole displaying the Indian tricolour, a culmination of the efforts of the founding Chancellor and benefactor of JGU, Mr. Naveen Jindal, which empowered private individuals and institutions to hoist the Indian national flag in pride. It is a gentle reminder of our goals, aspirations, values, duties, and responsibilities. On the edge of the national capital region of Delhi, in the city of Sonipat, in the serene Jagdishpur village, you will easily forget the proximity of a bustling city, thanks to the verdant landscape, arable fields, and lush vegetation. Amidst this genius of nature, JGU stands resplendent. JGU's architecture merges finally into these pristine surroundings, where its uniquely designed academic block stands testimony to the institution's vision, creativity, and intellect. So as to facilitate technology-aided and experiential learning, the academic block houses state-of-the-art classrooms, faculty offices, conference rooms, modern design labs, and studios, which assist in imparting world-class education. JGU promotes equal opportunity and inclusive education. It has welcomed differently abled people, and the campus has been designed to ensure their ease of use as per international standards. JGU's state-of-the-art global library offers a panoply of resources curated to facilitate the learning and research of student and faculty. In addition to the print resources, 80% of the library's resources are in electronic form and are accessible from within the campus as well as remotely 24/7. The Global Library offers flexi spaces and the right ambience for study and learning. We believe in creating a broadening and holistic learning experience to students, one not restricted to classrooms. After an intellectually strenuous day, students make their way to sports arenas abundant in amenities, including an 8-lane swimming pool, badminton courts, table tennis center, cricket ground and practice pitches, lawn tennis courts, football grounds, volleyball ground, basketball courts, recreational and fitness centers, well-resourced gymnasium, and a multi-purpose sports arena. Sports and fitness activities are an integral means of individual development. Student sport under the guidance of qualified coaches. For those who prefer cerebral alternatives, there are activities which create intramural and extramural opportunities for students. Debates, reading groups, book clubs, quizzes, music, and creative arts to choose from. The specially designed Agora, colloquially called the Adda, is site to activities like plays, dance performances, and cultural events. For moot courts, students sharpen their mooting and advocacy skills. Moot court competitions gather on campus young minds from across India and many nations to engage in incisive debate. During Biswamil, the annual Student Cultural Fest, and Magnus and the Jindal Sports League, the Sports Fests, students let their hair down and paint the town red. A fully residential university, the JGU campus serves as a home away from home and an enabling ecosystem for intellectual networking and social interaction. It offers the widest range of comfort, support, and choices for students who live with us through their educational innings. Fully networked and digitized with the latest Wi-Fi technology, keep the proverbial window to the world open before our students. It has been said that some of the greatest ideas and bonds are born on dinner tables. JGU's multiple dining halls are any gourmet's delight. It offers nourishing multi-cuisine meals of the choicest varieties. Other amenities on campus include laundry services, convenience stores, pharmacy, ATMs, grooming salons, and a creche for the children of faculty and staff. Providing 24/7 security, the campus is under the watch of CCTVs and guards on duty, in addition to other security measures, including night patrolling. The JGU Health Centre offers the best primary medical care with highly qualified doctors, nurses, and physiotherapists. It has wards, a minor operating theatre, an ICU, physiotherapy rooms, and an in-house pharmacy. The Centre for Wellness and Counselling Services ensures emotional and mental wellness of the JGU population. A decade ago, we had a vision to build a world-class university in India with a sustainable approach towards the environment and protecting our biodiversity. We continue to preserve the natural habitat of our avian and other visitors, integrating them with nature. As dusk sets in over the landscape, as horizon turns crimson in the silhouetted buildings of JGU, another great day spent in teaching and learning in joyful pursuit of knowledge draws to an end. Leaving libraries and study rooms lit by midnight lamps for solo pursuit of knowledge. Tomorrow will be another ascension, another sunshine, another awakening in self-discovery. The JGU journey continues.
That was a serene yet enthralling film, aptly depicting the words of poet John Keats, "A thing of beauty is joy forever," a lovely ode to the beauty of the campus of OP Jindal Global University, a home away from home. I would now request Dr. Virander S. Chauhan, Chairman, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, India, to deliver the presidential address.
You need to unmute yourself, Dr. Chauhan.
Good. I was actually waiting for Dr. Newman's. Obviously, she hasn't been able to join.
She's just in. I can see her in the video, but anyway, it will take from.
No, so I'll just say. So I actually looked at the what she was going to talk about, and how universities in future would shape or can shape and can do for the world, and that started a thought in my mind. But before that, let me say I'm extremely happy to be part of this event. 11-year-old. I think I came to university in his first or second year and have continued to be associated with university as much as Dr. Rajkumar has allowed me to be associated with. He's kept me at a distance, except for times like this. But I followed the journey of JGU well. This is a personal comment about Rajkumar, and I'll make a brief one. Many years back, I hope Raj will not mind this. I was on the other side of the table in a scholarship interview, and Shri Rajkumar walked in, and I think there was an air around, "Look at me, you can't ignore me." And I guess we accepted that. But I was imagining when Naveen must have first time met Raj, And Raj would have made a proposal. Poor Naveen would have had no choice but to agree to whatever Rajkumar was saying. But in return, I must say, I've been watching. Raj talked about, Dr. Sani also talked about autonomy to the university. This has been discussed a lot. Autonomy is given and autonomy is taken. I have seen the university. So the vision, collective vision of the founders, Jindal family, especially Naveen, and then vision of Raj must have been so very clear that the fruits of that you see now. Raj has set, and your faculty has set a very hectic pace for yourself. On average, you have a new school, one new school per year. There's some impressive faculty, but only my comment about the founder, the vice chancellor's ability to search, hunt, attract the top class faculty, and then you can attract faculties in many places, but then to keep them in the flock and keep them satisfied and get the best out of them are the rare abilities. So anyone I feel who can hire Sudarshan Ramaswamy and Shiv Vishwanathan and have them on the campus for as long as Raj has had, I think it's a major achievement. So I won't say anything about JGU now. But I was, as I said, I was reflecting on the topic that Dr. Newman was going to speak about. I went to university personally in mid 60s and then stayed in university 70s, did my PhDs end of 70s. And since then have stayed in education and have seen its rise, sometime fall, then again rise. So while universities have shaped, if you looked at the, I don't want to go into the history of successful universities, but past 250 years, universities have been extremely successful enterprises. They were free to do what they wanted to do. They had liberal funding. They operated best when they were allowed the freedom to operate. And they trained this, the skill word was not even discovered at that time. They just had people coming, made them fit enough to go out in the society and serve the society. Serving the society after receiving higher education seemed at that time the primary goal of the university. Whether you do research or you become a lawyer, or you become a doctor, or you teach, that was the core work of university. University were extremely successful. Say physics, chemistry, biology later on, new thoughts in political science, amazing historians, all that contributed to see the society the way you see it today. But by 80s, you saw what I wanted to really talk about, how society has impacted the university the past 4 decades or 5 decades. So there are many reasons for it, and I won't go into the details of it, but to summarize, massification of education, very large number of people wanting to access higher education, and rightly so. Reduced funding. I think by 80s, early 80s, in many countries, especially in the West, you saw reduced government funding into the university. And that impacted universities amazingly. Large numbers, lesser money, you look out for yourself. That was the time when I started teaching in India. And I'm not comparing India versus Europe. University, and then of course, the digital technologies came in, and one can spend whole day talking about impact of digital technologies, good things or the bad things, but I leave that out. But be it as it may, what happened then in the university, the universities needed to respond to society needs. So society in many ways shaped university, and there came a time when many universities which are easily accessible, agreed that lesser number of people, became almost inaccessible to very large number of clients, as it were. A lot of people could not simply afford to go to university because the prices of going to university or the fees of university, I saw that happening. I saw that happening from 70s to 80s to 90s. And we are currently in a position where many universities, especially good top universities, are simply not accessible. So there are many arguments, there are scholarship, there are fellowships, but the core is the government's funding all over the world decreased, and wherever it increased, I think those locations have benefit. So I leave this thought that societies and let's say the environment also shaped universities. Universities in return did extremely well. In fact, they responded. And to my mind, I'll cut this argument short. They responded very well because they had inherent intellectual flexibility amongst them. And they had by nature problem solving minds. So they sat down around, did this, did that, is funding, but impacts were there. So what happened to the university, let's say 90s or 2000 and onwards when Jindal JG was conceived? There were rankings. University need to worry about where we are ranked, if we are rated or not. University needed to worry about how much research should they do, how much teaching they should do, which courses, short courses were introduced about 20 years back, etc., etc. So I think I think there was an irreversible impact on university behavior. So I'm trying to address this to younger students who have just joined JGU or must be the second or third year. So there was a disruption in the way universities work. But let's fast forward to where we are. Uh, what does university education mean today? And what is expected out of university? So earlier, what was expected of university? You go to university, you be amongst people who do different things. You learn how to debate. You learn how to listen to others. You have intellectual ability created. You learn how to raise a hypothesis. You learn how to solve a problem. What you see today, and I see it almost every day on television, and I see whether have university been successful in doing what universities are supposed to do. If you just go to any channel now, evening debate, for example, they're all anchors for not all channels, but most channels all over the world. You will find people shouting at the top of each other. You will not hear anything. This morning, if anybody switched on television for the presidential debate, and you know what I'm referring to, is this the outcome of university education? I think this is the question mark which certainly is in my head. And I see the evidence of this inability to let somebody else complete what he or she wants to say, to talk over, and unless somebody starts saying what you want to hear, you shout even more. I think this is those who go to good university like JGU, both faculty and students, really this is food for thought. This is a happy occasion, 11th anniversary of JGU. So I don't want to say what I worry about university education, but university education sets you free. It gives you choices. It tells you about your rights. But I personally think those of us who are fortunate to receive education in a good university have a huge responsibility. We have individual responsibility, we have collective responsibility, and unless from where I see, having worked in the university, having worked in an institute, having run UGC for a while, I don't see any other way in seeing university being successful unless all stakeholders in the university, whether it's a support staff, whether it is faculty, whether a student, if they don't take individual responsibility, what they're supposed to do. And our responsibilities are very clear. I don't think anybody has to point out what is responsibility of a student or a responsibility. Much I've thought about it at a personal level, I've pondered about it. The solution comes to And let me take an example. Digital technologies allowed us to, Raj, whoever is running the, please stop me when my time is over, because I can go on for 2 hours. That's the problem. So very quickly, I'll give this example. I chaired a meeting which I hated to chair in UGC. That is about telling the faculty or telling the academia where you can publish your work, where you should not publish your work. It's very relevant for people who are joining research university like JGU. JGU is heavily research based. What are our responsibilities? So there are a huge number of fraud, fake journals, very large number of fake published work, plagiarized work. I think these are individual responsibilities. And if at a university you go and the university haven't sown the seeds for how to counter this, I think university has uniquely failed in its, no matter how much it has skilled you, no much how much, if this personal responsibility has not been inculcated, and I think university education has failed. At a collective level, I think we failed. Maybe the regulators have gone. For example, if you don't publish 2 papers before you submit your thesis, simply doesn't make sense. And regulators need to look at. And maybe the new education policy will address these things. So good research, good teaching is what university is supposed to do. Let me just change the tracks. I don't know how much time I've taken. The pre-COVID situation was bad enough for universities, funding-wise, reduced monies and so on, rapid expansion. COVID, of course, had laid bare a whole lot of other elements in us and in the system which were hidden. Of course, we can do very many webinars, we can do meetings like this. So digital technology allow you to do this. Fortunately, in the COVID situation, universities have done tremendous contribution. So one thing what university can shape the future world, or you can shape the future world, would be kind of contribution that universities have made in COVID situation. Let me take an example. All the vaccines, and when I say all the vaccine, I really mean that. Almost, there are more than 300 candidates currently. More than 50 have gone into phase 1 trial. If you trace the footsteps where these originated from, either the platform for the vaccine or the vaccine construct itself, you'll find somewhere in one of the university, anywhere in the world, you'll find that scientists or the staff or the faculty of universities have behaved amazingly well. The transfer of preprints being shared, information very rapidly. But at the same time, those of us who are educated in the university but are not involved in research, there's a huge amount of misinformation, which surprisingly travels faster than good quality information, is widely distributed, widely accepted. I think this is the role of university. I think somewhere university, or when I say university, I mean institution of higher education, have a very definite role to play to address these problems. Maybe there'll be a vaccine, but there are not one, maybe there are 5 vaccines tomorrow. But what we see in parallel is that globalized world suddenly making boundaries. Each government, especially in the West, are openly saying that if we have a vaccine, our population in our countries would have the priority. Very little thought on the nature of virus. That is a globalized world, that you can't just say, I will immunize my house before I immunize my neighbor. It doesn't work. And this is coming from many of us, all of us, those been educated in the university. So if as university, given those values, as I said, the universities were doing extremely well in the past. I think this is thought to ponder. Higher education, access to higher education puts a responsibility on the shoulder of who receive this higher education. So you're lucky, if we are lucky to have higher education, therefore we have responsibilities. A lot of people have said that. This is nothing new. that only religion for someone who been fortunate to receive higher education, the only religion you have a voice of reason. I'm not going to use what scientific temper, but just be reasonable. And our first job is to help others who have not been as fortunate as those of us who have been to the university. I think if we did that, individual level, collective level, college level, university level, mohalla level, country level, I think that's where the university role will come in shaping the larger society. Going back to the JGU success, JGU has set it's like if it was a marathon race, JGU has set the pace. There are many philanthropic families, business houses. At the same time, about 2008, 2009, universities were created, and front runners are in front of us. There will be many more universities created. Many will be successful. But I think the model that JGU is set up is something to cherish, something people will need to follow. But I'm not going to say this early success. I think you will be able to sustain. But sustaining, Raj, the kind of success that you have had continuously from your inception is going to be a huge responsibility. And that responsibility will be with your faculty, with your student. I already see students coming out from JGU and some other good universities doing extremely well. We see them at various other levels in scholarship and so on. I don't think, if I were at JGU, I wouldn't worry about where I'm ranked, whether QS or... I've always disagreed with Raj at this point. You just keep doing what you're doing. There's a natural consequence of what you do. Well, will be somewhere that somebody will take notice of it. Let me assure all the students, and I'm addressing the students, you work hard, you know what you need to do, you do it well, you will never ever go unrecognized. You will be recognized. So my only, while it's good to be in QS ranking, youngest university, nobody done before, it's bound to happen. You get good faculty, you have a good students, you have good infrastructure. You cannot not have it. It will happen, whether it's a University of Eminence. So don't worry too much about your ranking. So finally, I simply want to say I'm not hung up on personal responsibility, but look at my final thought as I'm racing through my head is pandemics. Could we have predicted? Of course, people said that we will have pandemics. We have had pandemics. So if we just calm down for some time and see what has happened in the past 30, 40, 50 years, starting from HIV infection, which is the virus again, we have had regular outbreaks of very serious viral infections. You had MERS, you had SARS-1, we had H1N1, H5N7, and so on. So with Zika, Ebola at a very regular. So you might want to scratch your head and say, what is happening? And the answers are not very difficult to find. The pressure, and once again, it ties up with the education, university education, and personal responsibilities. The way I don't want to use cliche, the climate is changing, global warming, but that is the consequence of what we see in pandemics. Surely there will be other viruses just lurking somewhere, will find human body as a suitable host and will infect. That's virus' job. Virus are designed to use a host machinery to multiply, and so they will. What is our responsibility? I think just go back on the drawing table and see that, please, as much we can protect the environment. All viruses that I mentioned have jumped from animals to human as a host. And this is no surprise that suddenly, I think this is common knowledge now. So if you take spaces away from animals, if you kill their spaces, and some of them are being killed naturally right now, the fires in California or in France or in Spain every year, and natural consequences of the way we behaved. So did university train us enough to be responsive? I think I leave that question hanging in the air. If it hasn't, and if needs to be corrected, and this is the course correction, and I think all of us, older, younger, especially the new lot, must very seriously ponder about. Otherwise, you will get out from one pandemic, you inevitably get into another one. So I don't want to leave on that note, but I think that's what the role of university would be. That's what universities can uh, 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 do for the society. This is a happy occasion. Raj, just one little thinking which I've been thinking about JGU. The 2 or 3 gaps area in university education across the new education would ask you, will mandate you to make many more choices available to your students. It's mandated. I think the one, and surprisingly, that archaeology as a subject. And with archaeology, archaeology is not digging spaces and finding little bricks and vessels anymore. With archaeology, very good quality inputs from material sciences, because archaeology, the sciences completely changed. And for product design, once again, material science becomes very important. So there might be food for thought at your institution, because I don't know when you will be encouraged to bring sciences or life sciences. But 2 gap areas, and archaeology as a gap in universities have always surprised me, except for Deccan College and maybe BHU. So maybe Naveen and you and others should think about it for future. I'm sure you're thinking those stuff. So I want to stop now. I once again want to congratulate Raj, you and your faculty for amazing achievements that you've had. Naveen is not joined in, but I really want to put on record that Jindal family has done extremely well to give you full autonomy, and in the process, I think everybody's benefited. So thank you very much for inviting me for this. I might have taken more time than you scheduled, but that's the danger you have in calling me.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan, for delivering the presidential address reflecting upon the role and responsibilities of the university in uplifting individuals and society. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have amongst us both our guests of honors for the evening now, Dr. Joanna Newman, Chief Executive and Secretary General, Association of Commonwealth Universities, United Kingdom, who would be delivering the University Day lecture, and Dr. Virander Chauhan, Chairman, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, India, who would be presiding over the University Day lecture. I would now request Dr. Joanna Newman to deliver the University Day lecture on the theme of how can universities shape the future of the world?
Thank you so much. And it is an absolute privilege and honor to be delivering the University Day address at OP Jindal Global University's 11th anniversary alongside eminent colleagues and friends. And it really is amazing what's been achieved here in just 11 years. And I'd like to offer the Association of Commonwealth Universities many congratulations to staff and students of OP Jindal, so ably led by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Raj Kumar. And I just want to say the ACU is an association of 500 plus universities. First slide, please. And we were born during the first global pandemic, I'm afraid, of Spanish, so-called Spanish flu in 1913. And at that time, very few universities were shaping the world and very few people were attending those universities. Today, far more people, and you are at the forefront of your generation in attending OP Jindal University, but we still have a massive challenge. We have something like 70% global tertiary enrollment in the world, which is wonderful, but in some places in the world, it's much, much less, and that's something I want to talk about in this lecture today. I've had great pleasure in knowing Professor Kumar for several years now, and I'm absolutely delighted that he's taken on the responsibility of chairing the ACU's East Asia Regional Committee, which comprises university leaders from India, Malaysia, and Hong Kong, and is helping to shape the priorities of my organisation in the region. I have also enjoyed many very beautiful visits to the campus outside Delhi, the first time famously getting very lost on the way there, but never again, where I've had an opportunity to spend some really memorable times engaging with your wonderful faculty and students, both during my time as Vice Principal International at King's College, but also my current role. And I would like to say that as the Indian government's new national education policy takes shape, I'm confident that this university, with its stellar reputation in law, the humanities, and a range of other areas, will play a leading role in further shaping the nation's higher education ecosystem, especially in areas of internationalization and international collaboration. And just finally, on the theme of international collaboration, shortly before lockdown in the UK due to COVID, colleagues from the ACU spent a few days at Jindal, along with a group of 40 students from 15 different Commonwealth countries. This is something the ACU is very proud of specialising in, bringing young people together from across the Commonwealth. And this was on social cohesion, and we saw workshops in India, UK, and South Africa. And the locations were chosen to mark the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, whose teachings and principles inspired the development of the Commonwealth Future series. So the physical coming together of students at 3 different locations in 3 different Commonwealth countries also reminds me of the importance of us meeting each other, physically as well as virtually. And no doubt there have been fantastic innovations recently because of COVID, and many innovations that will have far-reaching effects in being able to push the provision of education across the globe. There is also the extreme importance, I think, of meeting, breaking bread. And just to remind us as students, it's not just what you learn in the seminar and in the lecture theatre that really matters. It's also that casual interaction that you have, that serendipity of ideas, that meeting of other people, and also, as importantly, in terms of university education, the challenging of ideas, the importance of asking you to argue for your idea and being challenged on your ideas, and perhaps meeting ideas that you don't agree with. At that Commonwealth Futures meeting, there was a young Indian student and a young Pakistani student who met and discussed what they were doing. And one of the things that they said afterwards, they said they laughed to say how little they'd known of each other's backgrounds and how much prejudice was there before they'd met each other, and how by meeting and talking and exchanging ideas, these prejudices can be addressed. And I would say that that is one of the most important aspects of a university education. And by producing globally equipped graduates, how universities can help shape the world, because they are producing the leaders of the future global citizens who can preach around tolerance and empathy and respect for other people's opinion, while also being able to hold an opinion of your own. So we are a Commonwealth organisation, and India is, of course, the Commonwealth's most populous nation and one of its youngest, and it's always been a really strong partner of the ACU. We have 153 member universities in India, with members in 26 Indian states. The list of ACU members in India include many of the leading public and private institutions, and we're really proud to have Jindal as a partner in our mission. 5 of our founding members include the universities of Mumbai, Allahabad, Calcutta, Madras and Punjab. And 3 of our council members coming up to our ACU governing body are from India. So please do get involved. I'd be very happy to send more information to you as students or staff and faculty about how you can get involved in the ACU's networks in the future. So moving on to the topic of today, how can universities shape the future of the world? If we move to the next slide, please. You'll see wonderful examples of research and innovation. The top slide in the top left-hand corner shows, I think, looking for a COVID vaccine. Top right is skilled graduates. Our scientists, our doctors, our engineers, our council workers, our government employees are all people who have learned at university. Socioeconomic development, you'll see here a solar panel being brought to energy into agricultural areas. And on the right, you'll see the education ecosystem and how important universities are to providing teacher training and pedagogic information. But also what universities are doing is that they're solving global challenges. They're looking at the science, and they're looking at cutting edge science as well as applied science. They're looking at things like early childhood development and the importance of supporting early childhood development. They're looking at poverty and hunger and the impact this has on the world. They're looking at climate and all the issues around climate, not just science, but also policy. They're looking at public health. They're looking at conflict and how conflict can be resolved. And so that universities, I would say, are an essential part of the ecosystem in tackling global challenges. Universities are also the custodians of learning empathy, tolerance, fairness, respect for the rule of law, while also creating environments where the power of innovation, creativity, and human imagination are unleashed in a responsible way. The world today is in the throes of a number of crises. For one, obviously the pandemic, which has taken almost 1 million lives and directly affected over 30 million patients globally. We have political polarization in a number of countries, where the democratic practices of dialogue and debate have been replaced by the rise of suspicion and hate. Quite often on the social networks that we thought were going to liberate the world, these social networks have become places of hatred and intolerance. We have a dangerous climate crisis, which is already causing widespread disruption to food production and catastrophic flooding. And we have growing economic disparity across the world, where the rich get richer and the poor become more dependent. We have rising crime in both developed and developing countries, and we have gender discrimination and violence, which continues to remain a chronic illness society has been unable to get rid of. But the good news is that universities are part of the solution, and as more people have been able to benefit from a university education and have gone on to help nation build in their countries, partly through the scholarship schemes that ACU and other organisations supply, that's changing that. So the more people that are educated, I would position the less gender inequality and gender violence there will be, for example. Why have universities been central to shaping the world? Because of the thought and the research and the education that goes within their buildings. And you should all be proud of the part that you play in the development of OP Jindal University. I want to go to the next slide and just remind you of the role universities have played in epidemics, pandemics, and disease. There's an example here from David Redding, who's a Rutherford Research Fellow at University College London, who has been working on improving the understanding of animal-borne human disease risk, and along with colleagues has built a computer model encompassing environmental disturbance and social change, such as deforestation and urban expansion, the movement of host animals, expected climate change, temperature, rainfall, types of habitat, even transport links. And the model has accurately predicted where the last 3 outbreaks of Ebola would emerge. The maps show Ebola hotspots in expected places such as Gabon and the Democratic Republic of Congo, but also in countries that have never had outbreaks before. It's too early to say that we've captured the true pattern of risk, but they're really confident that their understanding of how climate and habitat create the conditions suitable for the host animal species to carry the Ebola virus is how we'll be able to react in future in a proactive way rather than just a defensive and reactive way. So that's just one example, but moving beyond science, universities have led the way in reflecting the importance of empathy and kindness in responding to crises such as COVID that we're seeing now. Could I have the next slide, please? The ACU put together through its network of universities something called Higher Education Together campaign. And you can see some wonderful examples here. On the top left, you have your own university. The university's chancellor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, announcing a massive contribution to the PM Cares Fund in order to support India's fight against COVID-19, in addition to the Jindal Steel Foundation's efforts in providing food and other essential supplies to the local community in the vicinity of their manufacturing locations. Moving beyond financial contributions, following the government of India's call that steps need to be taken to ensure that animals do not suffer neglect during the initial government-imposed lockdown, The university also offered support to the canine residents on campus, making sure that the dogs that live on your vast rural campus were well looked after. I have to say, an unforeseen aspect of canine relations in the UK is that our dogs and cats have become so used to us being around, they're going to have abandonment when COVID ends and we all go back into our offices. Another example here is in Bangladesh. We have a privileged university who turned its pharmacy department into a producer of hand sanitizer for the less privileged in Dhaka. And in Malaysia, the overwhelming generosity of leading public universities towards their own students and towards thousands of international exchange students locked down on campus in March and April displayed the power of kindness within university communities. And it's this level of empathy that makes the universities the heartbeat of thriving societies and an important factor in earning the goodwill of the community, whilst also sending the right message to young learners who will be the leaders and change makers of tomorrow. And it's also, I think, very important, and I think Jindal shows this very well in the examples I've just given, that universities are global institutions and they are international in their very nature, but they are also rooted in place and they have a responsibility to reach out to their local communities and work with them in all sorts of community ways. In a more direct response to the novel coronavirus itself, researchers at universities all over the world are putting their differences aside and professional rivalries, although I would say that they always do when they're researchers, it might be the vice-chancellors that don't, to focus simultaneously on a single mission, not competition, but cooperation, openly sharing hundreds of viral genome sequences and the results of their clinical trials. Next slide, please. Obviously, the climate is something, the climate crisis is something which is we are all acutely aware of. It affects every member of the Commonwealth, especially the development of small island states, but also large ones such as India. In fact, the IIT Institute in Mumbai next year will be holding, for a part of our Climate and Resilience Network, a particular session on critical infrastructure. Many Commonwealth countries are already dealing with the challenges of increased temperature, rising sea levels, storm surges, drought, flooding, and typhoons. The Commonwealth Secretariat has been pushing for greater climate action since 1989, when its importance was declared via the Langwarri Declaration, which brought leaders together to discuss, and I quote, the serious deterioration in the environment and the threat this poses to the well-being of future leaders. The leaders foresaw that any delay in action would result in extreme weather results. And we have obviously seen those in Australia. We've seen the multiple episodes of flooding in India over the past few years, including the loss of nearly 900 people killed in floods in 11 states as recently as last month. So a climate scientist from the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology was quoted last month highlighting that the Northern Arabian Sea has been anomalously warm recently, with sea surface temperatures consisting to 2 to 3 degrees above normal in this region. So it's the responsibility, I would say also, and the way that we can shape the future of the world, to be directly involved, to influence stakeholders to lead more conscious lives. And that's also down to you as students, to ask your university, what climate policy does it have for its campus? What climate awareness is there? How can you get involved as a student? You might be already involved as a researcher, but there are so many other ways that you can become involved and have a voice as a moral imperative, really. As a privilege of being at a university, you have a moral imperative to be a good citizen, I would argue too. So moving on, the ACU's own Climate Resilience Network, which we're very proud to have Jindal as a member of, established with Fiji National University, the University of South Pacific, University of West Indies, to name a few, are linking universities directly affected by climate with many others who have expertise in building resilience. If we can go to the next, I'm going to skip a slide and go to academic collaboration, because I want to give you a story, which is one of my favorite stories about why universities matter and the importance of universities. I went to a very dusty, dusty airfield in Western Australia and took a flight in a very small plane with the Foreign Minister of Australia and the Universities Minister of the UK a few years ago. And we went from the plane to a landing strip where we were met by a bus, which took us about 3 hours into the Australian outback to a very, very dusty place of red soil, flies buzzing everywhere. We had little hats on. And all around us was no longer a sheep farm, but a satellite farm. Hundreds and hundreds of satellites planted by different universities around the world, including Indian universities, mapping the sky, mapping the dark matter of the sky, sucking massive amounts of information through newly developed technology that I don't understand, that would allow scientists to actually look at dark matter and understand, or try to understand more about the origins of the world and the origins of the universe. It's a fantastic project. And it's a project which has grown from initial Commonwealth countries to other countries taking part as well. And what's really interesting about this is that you could easily say, why is the government spending money on this kind of research? How's it going to help humanity or solve global challenges? Well, it's actually inspiring thousands, new generations of school children, because the work that the Square Kilometre Array is doing has been adopted and taken forward in schools, who are learning, the students are learning and inspired by the science that's happening. And of course, what that's doing is it's making them interested in data, and it's making them interested in artificial intelligence, and it's making them think about careers in exactly the technologies and the areas and the applied science that we need to make a difference to the world today. So there's an example, if you like, of the black swans, the things that we don't know what we don't know, all the way through to really practical applications of research and technology that will also drill down into college education and into applied degrees. So I just really wanted to end in a way on that example of why universities matter and why universities will continue to shape our world, because within universities, we will always have people who will be thinking beyond tomorrow, and they will be working they'll be working on experiments that they might not see the results of in their lifetime. But at the same time, there's also the pragmatic education of the next generation of leaders and change makers that also is the bread and butter of universities and why they matter to all of us so much. So I just wanted to end by saying that this pandemic that we're all living through, you're a generation of COVID students. You have experienced something none of the students before you, or hopefully after you, will have experienced in quite the same way. It gives us an invaluable opportunity to reboot our world as we know it, to become kinder and closer and more conscious and more empathetic. Universities have an essential part to play in the ecosystem of the world. They're as important as primary and secondary. And at the moment, we have a very unequal, colliding world. I visited the Infosys campus a long time ago, where Thomas Friedman famously made the discovery that the Earth is flat, if any of you have read his book. Well, it's not flat, it's colliding. We still have huge areas of inequality where the rich can get a good education and the poor have huge difficulties in doing so. And the ACU, the last slide, please, exists to bring up the quality and the depth of higher education. If you go to the next slide, please. Into a global north and a global south that support each other. Through its interaction, will solve global challenges, but will also, as importantly, give everybody an equal chance to develop their own potential, as well as developing the potential of the society around them. So thank you very much, and I wish you huge birthday greetings and congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Newman, for delivering such an inspiring and insightful University Day lecture, and Dr. Chauhan for presiding over the lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have reached the most awaited moment of the evening. The time has come to begin the announcement of awards for students, members of staff, and faculty. May I now request the Office of the Registrar to take the ceremony forward.
Thank you so much, Joanna, for your fascinating lecture, and thank you, Dr. Chauhan, for your presence as well.
Thank you, Professor Rajkumar. A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of the Office of Registrar, JGU, I warmly invite all of you to one of the much awaited segments of the University Day, which is the awards ceremony. This evening, my colleagues, Professor Tanushree Sharma, Professor Upasana Mahanta, Ms. Surinder Kaur, who serve as Senior Additional Registrars at JGU, and myself, Mercy Debra, Additional Registrar at JGU, will be now releasing the list of awardees. These awards celebrate the achievements and contributions of faculty, staff, and students during the academic year 2019-20. To begin with, we will now share the list of awardees in the category of staff members who have made outstanding contributions to the university in this rather challenging year. May I now request our team to please display the list of awardees among the JGU staff.
Good evening, everyone. What a pleasure it is to wish all of you a very happy 11th anniversary of the OP Jindal Global University, our university. It makes me immensely happy and is indeed my privilege to present to you the next category of awards, the Research Excellence Award, that recognizes the outstanding contribution of faculty towards research. May I, before the slides start rolling and introducing the award recipients, take a second to say heartiest congratulations to the awardees, my esteemed colleagues. You inspire many. May we have the slides, please?
A very good evening to all on this very, very special occasion. It is my pleasure and a privilege now to proceed towards presenting the School Awards 2020 to all the students who have excelled and showed tremendous promise in both curricular and co-curricular facets of their student life in their respective schools at JGU. Heartiest congratulations to all the awardees. May we now please have the slides.
Good evening, everyone. Many congratulations to the JGU community on the 11th anniversary of our very own OP Jindal Global University. It is a matter of great honor and pleasure to announce the most awaited University-wide Awards 2020. This happens to be the last category of the awards for the evening. Heartiest congratulations to all the awardees. May I request our IT team to present the slides of the awardees under this category, please?
Congratulations to all the winners, and I would like to thank Ms. Surinder Kaur, Professor Upasana Mahanta, Professor Mercy Deborah, and Professor Tanushri Sharma for presenting the names of the winners of the awards. I would like to now invite Professor Dabiru Sridhar Patnaik, Registrar, OP Jindal Global University, to deliver the concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, Nisha. And at the very outset, I would like to extend my warm greetings on the 11th anniversary of the OP Jindal Global University and on the occasion of celebration of the University Day. Before I proceed any further with my observations and my concluding remarks, I would like to seize this opportunity or take this opportunity to congratulate all the awardees from the staff, faculty, and even the student body. And in particular, we would like to commemorate the contributions of each and every member of the community, but we cannot thank enough those people who are members of the administration who make our lives much more comfortable and support us and contribute to the smooth functioning of the university. So with the permission of everyone present here, I would like to enlist the list of awardees from the administration as a small token of appreciation to all their services at all levels from the administration in particular. So I would like to congratulate on behalf of the community at JGU, Mr. Rajesh Dahiya, junior member, junior manager, my apologies, from the Student Housing Administration for his outstanding contribution to administration and to all the activities of the university. I would also like to congratulate Mr. Ashwini, who is a member of our Office of Travel and Transport Services and who takes care of our transportation services at this particular office. I would like to recognize the services of Mr. Ankit Tyagi, who is a deputy manager and a graphic designer working at the office of the Vice Chancellor, and who is the person behind all our creatives, most of the important creatives that we design at the university. I would also like to recognize the services of Mr. Pawan Kumar, who is a manager at the office of the registrar. I would also like to recognize and congratulate Ms. Bhumika Dwivedi for all her outstanding services and contribution to the OP Jindal Global University. Ms. Bhumika is a manager at the Office of Sports, Fitness, and Swimming Services. I also take this opportunity to recognize the services of Mr. Gaurav Gupta, who is a member of the team at the Office of Information Technology. I take this opportunity to even recognize the contributions of Ms. Amita, who is an assistant nurse at the Office of Health Services, JGU. I also congratulate and recognize the services of Mr. Pankaj Sharma, who is a senior manager at the Office of the Controller of Examinations. I also take this opportunity to recognize the services and contributions of Ms. Vaishali, who is a junior manager at the Office of Career Services. Likewise, I would like to recognize the contributions of Ms. Simarjit Kaur, who is a member of the Administrative Office of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, Ms. Ashima Wadhwa, who is a member of the Administrative Office of the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication, Mr. Deepak Kanpal, Deputy Manager, Office of Human Resources, Mr. Syed Anas Ali, Junior Manager at our Global Library, Mr. Rahul Sharma, Executive Faculty and Staff Housing Management Services, Mr. Ankush Sharma, Assistant Manager, Office of Engineering, Construction and Project Management, and Mr. Ankur Hora, Deputy Director, Office of Admissions and Outreach. I congratulate each one of them for their outstanding services to the university and for the recognition that they richly deserve. On a very special note, or on a very particular note, on behalf of the JGU administration, I would also like to take this to recognize the special mention or a special commemoration for the leadership and services of Dr. Jatinder Sachdeva, who is head of our University Health Services and Director, University Health Services, for all his outstanding contributions that helped us shape the University Health Services during these troubled COVID times. So once again, I congratulate all the students, faculty, and staff members for their achievements. And I also take this opportunity to thank our chief guest, Dr. Virander Chauhan, Chairman, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, and Dr. Joanna Newman, Chief Executive and Secretary General, Association of Commonwealth Universities, United Kingdom, and all the members of the university's Academic Council, Board of Management, Governing Body, faculty members, heads of departments, and administrative staff, and students and parents, and all our distinguished partners from abroad who joined us on this very special occasion. We are also grateful to our benefactor, Shri Naveen Jindal, for establishing the OP Jindal Global University and for his unflinching support and continuous guidance that enabled us to create a center of excellence in higher education. As remarked by the Vice Chancellor and even by the advisor to the Vice Chancellor, today is just a special day and a momentous day. It's not just our classes commenced, but every year on this occasion, we also celebrate the accomplishments of our members, as you had just witnessed, and take this opportunity to thank everyone for making what JGU is today and what it could become in the future. Although we miss the celebrations, I take this opportunity to congratulate members of the entire JGU community. It's a special year too, as we started a new school, and we also inaugurated a new school, the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling, which is going to commence its academic session in 2021. We also started 2 new programs, and that's indeed a delightful moment as we sort of celebrate the 11th anniversary. And the establishment of JGU and whatever JGU is today, it is due to the committed and thoughtful faculty, students, and staff members, which indeed is our asset. And we all have come together under the able leadership of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, and Dr. S.P. Sahani, with the objective to transform higher education and create outstanding opportunities for our students. We believe in shaping the young minds to become future leaders in the respective spheres who would stand for academic honesty and integrity, accessibility, empathy as they progress in their lives and careers, and also in a very erudite manner outlined by the guests of honor this evening, both Dr. Joanna Newman and also Dr. Virander Chauhan, who talked about responsible higher education and also the need for multi-level engagement. So we cannot thank them enough for their continuous support to JGU over the years, and for also taking out time this evening to be with us and to render an inspirational, thoughtful, and enriching and a futuristic lecture that sort of paved a path for us to set new directions to all of us. And that is so much in consonance with the vision and mission of the OP Jindal Global University. We had the opportunity to host them on numerous occasions at the university, but today is indeed a special moment to all of us. And they always believed in our vision and supported us in our journey. I once again take this opportunity to sincerely thank them for joining us this evening and for sharing their ideas and for their continuous support. In closing, I also take this opportunity to thank the government, the institutions and the regulatory bodies, friends, supporters, and well-wishers of JGU who supported us throughout in the last decade. And we look forward to their ongoing support too. I also take this opportunity to sincerely thank my colleagues from all schools and offices at the JGU who had worked hard in ensuring a successful program and for putting together this wonderful program this evening. It is indeed a collective effort, and it is difficult to take all the names, but I would like to make a mention by thanking the deans of all the schools, the principal director of the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences, and the directors of IIHED and JILD. And I would like to thank the Chief Operating Officer and the Senior Director HR and his entire team, the Chief Financial Officer and the Senior Director of Finance and Accounts and his entire team for their contributions to the university over the years, all the HODs, all the heads of departments and the staff members, and in particular, I would like to also thank the Office of Information Technology and the Office of Media and Communication for ensuring this very successful program. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank colleagues from the Office of the Registrar who worked tirelessly, and it's difficult to take all the names as I had just mentioned, but I would like to thank all the members of the office and the senior additional registrars, the additional registrars and the joint registrars, and also the Office of the Chief Proctor who contributed to these efforts. And last but not the least, I'd also like to thank all the staff members and the directors of the Office of the Vice Chancellor for their continuing support and cooperation and encouragement in ensuring this very successful program. And last but not the least, I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor and even Dr. Sahani for their continuous encouragement and for the support and for the guidance in ensuring that we could do whatever we are doing. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the students and parents for their active participation and support to the university and everyone who attended the program this evening. Before I close, I must say JGU has ambitious strategic plans for the future. So let's continue with the euphoria and togetherness and continue to script our story. Thank you very much once again, and the program has ended.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Chauhan, please come and visit us and bless us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.